So this is the 0630 hours GMT edition of the KhoodeelaarTV television channel, broadcasting under the banner of Baby Angel Geronimo editions. This is Sunday, the 30th of October 2022, and the absolutely overwhelming majority of the opinion contained in the pieces about Rishi Sunak are about his wrong kind of decision to appoint Suella Braverman to the post of Home Secretary, that is Interior Minister, in the UK government cabinet that he apparently leads. And the other comment about Rishi Sunak, which goes even deeper into questioning his fitness for the post or the office, is contained in a Scotland-based news outlet that says that he has neither integrity nor wisdom. So this is the theme that is dominating the press. Those in India, especially those in charge of the Times of India, who overdid their promotion of Rishi Sunak on the day after he met Brian, the King Brian, etc., etc. The note is that don't be stupid. You are stupid, but don't be stupid. Rishi Sunak does not represent India, and he is not going to represent ethics or morality for anybody for long. For example, in addition to the weight of dirt and filth and cruelty that Suella Braverman personifies, Rishi Sunak is sinking under the weight of his absurd, idiotic boycott of the climate change conference being held in Egypt. Not only that, he has made things worse by banning King Brian from going there. This is the last thing that Rishi Sunak needs. The image of him being hostile to the world's increasing awareness, fact-based awareness about climate change and the urgent need for big powers and big states and big polluters to do urgent action. What else has he been doing wrong? He has been also featured in today's Daily Mirror on Sunday, which says that big emissions and big polluters, conglomerates, paid him, donated to him, or their donations helped him get into the position of leader of the Conservative Party, and so on. The Sunak was mispronounced by the understandably kind of mentally, intellectually frail Joe Biden as Sanuk. I think we have got a better mistake to insert there and substitute there. Instead of Sanuk, we say Sunk. The spelling is S-U-N-A-K, Sunak. So we remove the A, the last A, the vowel, and it's sunk. Sunak is sunk and submerged under the completely unmentionable dirt that is the personification of Suella Fernandez of Goa, from Goa or Goan origin. And her hostility is a in principle far right racist hostility to migrants. She may have some genetic reasons for, or ethnic, social, family reasons for being especially hostile to India. But she made the point about she wanted to stop too many Indians coming into the UK. Quite why she was so hostile to too many Indians is not explained by her, as at least not in the so far accessible public documents or materials. But she was hostile to India in an unreasonable, callous way. Now, let me just say one thing. When she hit the headlines, or when she surfaced as a newly elected Conservative Member of Parliament, the first thing she actually did in catching my eye, if you like, was what Edwina Curry had done, as described by the now late Simon Slimy Hogarth. Simon Slimy Hogarth used to write a kind of column, political column, Westminster column, in the now defunct Punch, which was revived by Muhammad Al Fayed when Slimy Hogarth was writing. And in one of his columns, and I was reading this as I traveled from the embankment to the Waterloo station on my way to the daily encounter I was having in those days with the Ken lying still Livingston fronted Greater London Council, GLC. And I was astounded to see that even Slimy Hogarth could see that Edwina Curry was out of control. Of course, Edwina Curry's adulterous behavior, including her affair, many years affair with John Major, didn't come out yet and wasn't probably taking place yet. That was in the 1980s that I was reading about her. So Edwina Curry struck Slimy Hogarth as being the most kind of aggressive self-promoter among the new MPs, as Slimy Hogarth was describing her. And this is what I was reminded of when Suella Fernandez, as she was known, hit the House of Commons as a newly elected Member of Parliament. Now, of course, I mean, whenever that was, it was long before the sickness of Brexit inflicted on the country was a factor. But whether that was the reason or not, Suella Fernandez contains or carries about her a kind of aura, a personality that is not welcoming, that is not social, that is not one of dignity, let's say, put it this way, and integrity. So it's only a question of time, it's only a matter of time before Rishi Sunak is sunk out of the patch that he has begun to make a family patch, going by today's Sunday Telegraph front page picture of his wife, Akkhata Murti. Akkhata is a Sanskrit word, and it means untainted or kind of tarnished or unbroken. Well, unbroken, let's say, Akkhata. Akkhata Murti. Murti is a doll, So Murthy is a family name, let's say, but Akkata is a Sanskrit name. Whoever gave that name obviously was thinking long term, and our non-dom status became a disadvantage for only a short period. Why? Because Akkata is now kind of in residence at number 10 Downing Street. And that picture of her was taken, of course, from long range, as far as I can tell. And it is near a kind of moving home kind of vehicle, a lorry or a truck or whatever. But the most important aspect of the photograph is that if you look at her, that image from a distance without close up, and you don't know who it is, it looks quite strange. But when you look closer at close up, it looks even stranger because she looks surprised, caught unawares by the camera or whatever was she was looking at that time. Because there are many, technicalities have developed so far that enable taking of pictures from various angles without the subject being aware that they are being photographed. So she may have a name called Akkata. But in terms of the specific career at number 10, that Rishi Sunak probably hoped he would be in for a sustained period, it may come to an end far sooner than he thought, and she believed him in that thought. That's all I can say. Now, too many things in his initial speech that he gave at Downing Street when he became kind of approved by King Brian that he was the one that was the new prime minister. And in his first prime minister's questions, he was asked a question by Keir Starmer, which anyone would have asked Rishi Sunak, given the facts. It was about Suella Braverman. But the reply, as I have said in the previous edition or editions of the KhoodeelaarTV television channel, KhoodeelaarTV. The spelling is KhoodeeLaar, KhoodeelaarTV. KhoodeelaarTV television channel. Khoodeelaar is a Siloti language word. I devised it politically and I created it. I politically weaponized it. And it means three things. One is the literal meaning, which is the unidentified party or parties are digging something and digging very fast. And they're digging so fast that if we don't stop them, they will get away with it. And it will be too late by the time they have done and gone. That is one. The other one is Khoodeelaar, is what I said in May 2005 at a meeting, so-called meeting of the kind of interested parties, local community, and 2 or 3 members of the staff of the Crossrail kind of adventure held at the Montefiore Centre in Hanbury Street. And it was something that was held probably by arrangement with the SSBA, because K. Jordan was there. And With her was this criminal crook liar, Aziz Chaudhry, sitting there utterly dependent on K. Jordan and her generosity. This criminal has been given too much money by K. Jordan and given a career by K. Jordan. The criminal always sits. He doesn't say anything because he is completely stupid. And by the time he catches up with the sense, it is too late anyway. So the K. Jordan was doing the demonstration about the alignment, which is the way that the planned line of the crossrail line in the area heading for the Brick Lane area. And she gave the various explanation with the map. As an architect, she was at home in doing that. But my emphasis was to let the two, maybe two or three, not more than three, employees of the Crossrail Adventure or Misadventure. My emphasis or focus was to tell them that they could not do the whole in Brick Lane. I was absolutely certain that they could not, and I am glad to say that they did not. That was 2005, May 2005, last week of May 2005, if memory serves me. And I created a phrase there in English, but I created a very effective, powerful phrase there. I said, we shall not, as a community, we shall not be dug out of our community, our homes. Dug out? So Khoodeelaar, the word that I created, was addressed to that phenomenon of being dug out. And it is a warning that we are being dug out. Khoodeelaar, they're digging us out. And the third meaning is overall they're attacking the community. So these are the three main meanings. There are others that I had in mind, and I have explained many times online those three meanings. What the statement printed on the Spitalfields Live in May 2022 by someone called Lucy about Khoodeelaar, the word being difficult to explain or translate, is of course based on an ignorance of what I have been saying expressly for all these years about Khoodeelaar. And the final thing is that Khoodeelaar, the word, I said many times, including in my speech on the 22nd of October 2004, given at the first Khoodeelaar rally in the Greater Exstreet, I said that the Khoodeelaar, the word, was similar to the French language word, oh yeah. So that is the fourth aspect and fourth dimension of the word Khoodeelaar. So it's a town crier's word. It's a word for the use by the champion defender of the community, which is what I have been and I am. And collectively the Khoodeelaar campaign is and has been, along with K. Jordan, as described by Baz Harrell. Baz Harrell is, like K. Jordan, a student of the Architects College or Architects Association. They were contemporaries. And he came to Brick Lane once or twice before he gave me this interview. And as he was walking down Brick Lane with K. Jordan, he noticed that she was being stopped by people in Brick Lane almost every step. K, 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 K. He said that K was the center of people's kind of anxiety to bring home to her or bring to her attention all their problems and issues, etc., etc. So K. Jordan was a known defender of the community, helper of people in the community, in the local area. And every time, every year in September, the City of London, in its corrupt propaganda business, held a so-called meeting about the community and its mission, let's say. K. Jordan was the only person who attended from the community, that is Brick Lane area. All the others are artificial people from other various business, etc., interests. And K. Jordan, for many years, I can't say how many years, but I would say that she did this for more than good 10 years, every September. And she would stand up and she would scold them. She would condemn them, berate them, deride them, attack their policies and their claims. So when she did that, well, they noticed her, of course they did. Not only that, she also made a mark, because although she didn't have anyone else accompanying her from the Brick Lane area, she actually defended those people and spoke for thousands of people in the area. And that created a consistent profile for the benefit or for the understanding of the crooks, the City of London crooks, present and aligned with the criminality. That there were people like K. Jordan who would not let them get away with the lying, let alone the lying after the facts, after the attacks. So there was K. Jordan and there was me. The two of us created a most uncomfortable environment for these criminals, which is the best moral and ethical state to be. And the combination of K. Jordan and Muhammad Haque was the last combination they wanted, because they would have done it. They would have dug the hole and they would have got away with it. They didn't. And we made sure they didn't. So this is the 30th of October 2022. 18 years ago, K. Jordan and I addressed this rally. And what we said, what we would do, we have done. And there are lessons for all of the people who are engaged in unmasking the mask wearing likes of Rishi Sunak. Because Rishi Sunak stank of the extreme hypocrisy and betrayal and treachery when he said, in the direction of the Labour Party opposition during his question time outing, he said with contempt for the subject of his contempt, and contempt for the Labour Party, and contempt for democracy, and most of all, contempt for all the obligations the United Kingdom is under, has been under, and will remain under, according to international treaties, charters, agreements, etc., especially the 1951 Refugees Convention or Refugee Convention. He said mockingly that the Labour Party was guilty. He said guilty, but it is not a guilt. Labour Party was guilty of advocating unlimited migration or immigration. Now that is a lie. Labour Party has never done that. Labour Party has never ever done that. And in fact, while the Labour Party is in office, even during the short period of James Callaghan, whom I rate as one of the most racist individuals in this country. One racist Callaghan was the Prime Minister, Labour Prime Minister. He was more racist than he could be or needed to be. How do I know? Because I confronted him exactly in that year or in that period. I did that as part of my kind of reporting of the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting that was taking place in 1977. And Callaghan was the only one that I questioned of the heads of governments who could not answer, so he did not answer my question. Instead, he went on immediately on a defensive racist mode. On a racist defensive mode, this Callaghan did, by saying words to the effect that he didn't want to engage in a discussion or debate on the issues that I raised. So that's Callaghan. He was not only not a supporter of unlimited migration or immigration, he was even more anti-immigration, anti-migration than Rishi Sunak could ever be. So that was James Callaghan. And I mean, the less we talk about Neil Kinnock, the better, because Neil Kinnock followed Callaghan, I think, after Michael Foot. Now, about Michael Foot, I mean, I hardly mentioned Michael Foot because he really didn't make any impact as leader of the Labour Party. Just as Jeremy Corbyn didn't make any impact as the leader of the Labour Party. But Callaghan was followed by Michael Foot. And Foot, despite the various plaudits and praise about his being intellectually fine and quote left-winger, etc., etc., Michael Foot was not fit for the purpose for that post. I have said quite a few things in past editions about Michael Foot, but not the complete set of facts. I'll continue to do that in due course. Now, going back to the role of Neil Kinnock, who followed Michael Foot as leader. I mean, I didn't complete the particular edition in which I last spoke about Neil Kinnock, because it is very, very upsetting to even now remember how bad Neil Kinnock was in the post of leader of the opposition. Neil Kinnock was an absolutely corrupt, racist git, G-I-T, git. I had very extensive knowledge about him in action, because during the period of the ILEA being Inner London Education Authority being demolished following Margaret Thatcher's decision to scrap the Greater London Council, of which the Inner London Education Authority was a part constitutionally. I went to the county hall, the city hall housing both the Greater London Council and the Inner London Education Authority. I went there to investigate the detail of what was happening under Rishi Sunak on the questions that are under reference. And I had to kind of mentally pause, and wonder how bad things were. Because in the Inner London Education Authority, well, the most maximum contact and impact they had were, let's say, democratically referred to in one of the main committees, and this was the schools committee or school subcommittee. This schools committee of the Inner London Education Authority was a rubber stamp for the executives in the ILEA doing anything they wanted by claiming to have been cleared by the debate held in the schools subcommittee. I mean, I was the main vocal critic of the school subcommittee at committee level, committee discussions. And it appeared that I knew more about the schools than all the Inner London Education Authority employees put together. So what time do you finish today? As far as the proceedings in the school subcommittee went, the entire committee was on one side, except one or two maybe meek ones who didn't speak, but they were not on the side of the status quo that was led by, as the authority, that is the Inner London Education Authority, was led by the racist Frances Immoral. I called her Frances Immoral because of her immoral racist behavior. Her name was, of course, Frances Morale. Now, this committee, schools committee, as I said, was the largest committee of the Inner London Education Authority. So, in other words, if the other committees didn't exist, this committee would still be enough. And so the Inner London Education Authority School Subcommittee had the biggest kind of remit covering all the schools all these schools within the 10 inner London boroughs, which is a lot of schools. And the key policy discussions were supposed to be taking place at the regular meetings of the school subcommittee. And the papers were supposed to be cleared and discussed and analyzed. Policy papers. The reality was that they wanted the papers to be just glossed over and allowed to be termed as having discussed and having passed the committee. My purpose from the beginning of my becoming a member was to make sure that this didn't happen without any debate. So my debate or attempts to debate what I thought were important issues led to the committee meetings being suspended more times than in the whole history of this committee. As it turns out, that every time I ask a question at a committee like that, there is no answer. It's not because there is an answer and they refuse to give me the answer. Because there is no answer. Just like Zulfikar Ali Bhutto in the 1960s at the Institute of Engineers in Dhaka, at my asking him the 9th question, decided that he couldn't cope with it anymore. So he gave in and he took a right turn and left the whole venue. What would have been the consequences if I hadn't stopped Zulfikar Ali Bhutto then? So, the Inner London Education Authority had members there for show. And Francis Immoral never wanted any members to be articulate, intelligent, aware, etc., etc. While this was going on inside the ILEA, Inner London Education Authority, on the outside, the conservatives and the racists were running the racist propaganda against the Inner London Education Authority collectively, alleging that the Inner London Education Authority was about to make the population, the white children in the area, in the 10 boroughs, ashamed of being white, and words to that effect. Absolute rubbish, absolute lies. So when the evening No Standard published a series of articles against the ILEA, it alleged the ILEA was being too anti-racist. I decided to hold a special session of the Black Londoners on the BBC. Of course, I wasn't the chair of the committee, but I organized this, and the Black Londoners, Alex Pascal, was the main presenter, agreed with my suggestion, and then wanted to have the discussion. So it was agreed also on my suggestion that myself, your coming is making noisy appearance. Anyway, you asked me the question whether I was okay. Of course I was okay, but I was not okay remembering the not okay experience of being on the ILEA's schools subcommittee. When the Times of India celebrated Rishi Sunak being the Prime Minister, Of course, they gave the impression that he would be making the decisions. But evidence shows that he would not be making the decisions. He is only there as the career fronter of the cabal that actually controls the Conservative Party and big business and the City of London. We shall be coming to discuss other issues, including the issues of that salute by Lutfur Rahman, who saluted me on the 29th of October 2010 as he was coming out of the Brick Lane Mosque, and I was in the main street filming him. It was a filming that was done transparently. I have never, to my knowledge, I have never had to video anyone or take photographs of anyone in a clandestine manner. So the picture that I took, or the film that I took, the footage that I made of Lutfur Rahman saluting me as he was descending from the Brick Lane Mosque into the main street in Brick Lane. This will be the feature that will be actually the subject of the quote book that I am going to publish about Lutfur Rahman, based on all the evidence. I'm the only one who spoke to Lutfur Rahman. Whether he was in contact with anybody else in quite the same way, I cannot tell, because I have not been present in that event or meeting, or in those events or meetings. So when Lutfur Rahman saluted me and came down on the level in Brick Lane, I told him two things. One was that he should meet me as a matter of urgency, and he should do the necessary to stop the crooks, criminals, and liars in the council that he was going to be executive mayor in. And Lutfur Rahman said to me two words: so I met Lutfur Rahman in the context of the mayor. I met him on the 6th of May 2010. And I told him that he should resign as leader of the Tower Hamlets Council Labour Group. I told him to resign on the condition that he continued to support the Crossrail plot. Most of the comments published about Lutfur Rahman by non-Bangladeshi people, mainly white so-called left-wingers, most of the comments are ignorant and stupid. They're ignorant and stupid on a very basic level. And then there are the ones that are not prima facie stupid and idiotic. In terms of the actual in enlightenment, the predictions and the words in predictions that I have spoken about, the thing being wrong to impose this mayor post in Tower Hamlets, have been impeccably, uniquely, world exclusively vindicated, correct. And the reason I said the community would be the loser, I said that collectively. I didn't actually separate individuals, nor did I have the means at the time. So every time I spoke to Lutheraman, I noticed that he didn't have any argument. What he did have was a ready statement saying he would meet me. And on that occasion, 29th of October 2010, Lutheraman told me outside the Brick Lane Mosque that he would meet me after settling down as the newly elected executive mayor. So every time I saw him in Townless Council building, he came up to me, and to those who were watching him coming up to me, I was sitting there in the so-called public gallery. They must have thought that he was kind of agreeing with me or telling the truth, but he was doing no such thing. He was just lying again and again and again. Now, the Iranian television channel had regular bulletins in praise of Luthuraman. The Iranian television carried absolute lies, and any other white kind of ones, including the Russian television or whatever, they had slots about Luthuraman. They were lying. And the socialist SWP, socialist wankers, lied for Lutheraman all the time. And there was absolutely no comment. Absolutely no comment from anybody else, elected councillors from the other parties, etc., etc. Or highly promoted community based councillors like Peter Goulds, nor indeed from the main man who claimed that he was the one who brought Lutheraman down by organizing the petition, Andy Alam. Andy Alam came across to me very similar to the younger brother, or at least as half brother of a man in the village, in the main village, and also this half brother of a man in Dhaka in the 1970s. Well, late during the year 1970. The man in question was, of course, Dr. Hassan Zaman, and his younger brother was called Ahmed, something Ahmed. And what happened was that every time there was a discussion about the policy of the Inner London Education Authority in the Inner London Education Authority area, every time there was a discussion, it was a false discussion, artificial discussion. And it took me to demand an end to this kind of discussion and demand a wholly proper discussion, a proper debate. It turned out that the reason why there were so many rows between me and the rest of them was very, very clear. So among the people in the council, elected councillors, or among the employees, there was no difference in terms of the lack of cognitive abilities. They all lacked cognitive abilities, social awareness, etc., etc. So there was an empty shell, also known as Lutfur Rahman, the executive mayor. Lutfur Rahman abused his position in selling seriously expensive and valuable material resources that belong to the Tower Hamlets Council. And when people like and this woman that fell ill recently, I'll go back to the events of 1980 in the Inner London Education Authority. And we shall be discussing that and going back to Tower Hamlets Council and the lies that Lutfur Rahman told. This is the end of the month of October, and I spoke to him on the 29th of October 2010. And Lutfur Rahman lied as he made that promise because he never had any intention of meeting me to discuss any policy of the council. I presented a program for an hour-long program on an outlet called Betar Bangla. And while I was doing that, I got a message, on the 20th of September 2010. So we shall be talking about all of those in the later editions. This is 55 minutes of this first part of the Khoodeelaar television channel, broadcast on the Sunday, 30th of October 2022.